So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay. So, Faslun fil Asar wa Ghayriha. So, this is chapter to do with the Asar. Asar is from the word Su'r. And Su'r means the remaining water. Okay, so basically, when you drink, like let's say for example, this is tea. So, when I drink from this, what happens? The tea goes into my mouth. But when it goes into my mouth, my saliva in my mouth touches the tea. So even though I drink some tea, some of that saliva has affected the rest of the tea. So when the tea goes back from my mouth, my saliva has mixed in with it as well. Does that make sense? So when you drink from someone else, you don't realize it, but you're actually drinking some of their saliva. So it might make you think twice now. Drinking from someone's cup again, but obviously nothing wrong with it. Now, this drinking, this remainder water, this is now called su'r. This is whatever's left in here is called su'r. So the su'r of animals, and likewise other substances which are excreted by animals, other secretions of animals as well. What's the ruling of all these things? So the fuqaha, when it comes to this, the fuqaha have looked through the hadith, looked through the verse of the Quran. Nothing in the Quran really to indicate anything, but hadith shows something. According to the Malikis, they say any animal which is living, its su'r is clean. Any animal, as long as the animal is alive, the su'r of the animal is considered to be clean.
When we say su'r, then we mean the saliva.
Meaning wherever it drinks from,
the
leftover water is clean. Okay, and hence the saliva is clean.
Okay. So even pig?
Even pigs, dogs, anything. Yeah, so they say basically as long as it's alive, it's clean. As long as the animal's alive, it's clean. It's sweat, everything. According to the Shafi'is, they say that which is going to come now, that the saliva of pigs and dogs is unclean, and the rest of the animals are okay. And according to the Hanafis, they say any animal that you can eat, its saliva is clean, and any animal you can't eat, like pig, dogs, predatory animals, their saliva is not clean. Yeah, and they've got a rule, the Hanafis have a rule, simple rule, which is this: whichever animal, its meat is not allowed for us, then their saliva and the sweat of the animal is unclean. Yeah. So that's going to come. Technically, according to Hanafis, based on this rule, cats should not be allowed. Yeah, the saliva and the sweat of cats should not be allowed. Make sense? That's what you have to remember for now. Now, obviously, what's going to happen is now we're going to look into each individual animal and we're going to see if there are any exceptions when it comes to animals. So, look at this. وَعَرَقُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ مُعْتَبَرٌ بِسُؤْرِهِ. The sweat of every single animal is considered according to its saliva, its remaining water. Yeah, the saliva, you can say. So both of these things have the same ruling really. If an animal whose saliva is considered to be impure according to the Hanafis, that means that the sweat should be impure as well, because لأنهما يتولدان من لحمه. Because sweat comes from where? Comes from the flesh, doesn't it? Yeah, it's excreted from the flesh. And likewise saliva, where does that come from? The glands in the mouth, excreted from there. So therefore, the sweat. What about tears of an animal? Yeah, they should be impure as well, because it comes from the flesh. Make sense? Okay. من لحمه فأخذ أحدهما حكم صاحبه. So one of them has taken the ruling of the other, of its companion. Meaning sweat and saliva are two companions. So whatever the ruling for one is the ruling for the other. Everyone understand that? Okay. وَسُؤْرُ الْآدَمِ وَمَا يُؤْكَلْ لَحْمُهُ طَاهِرٌ. Now, su'rul adami, human beings, what should their ruling be? Is human being, is their flesh clean? It's clean, isn't it? Are we allowed to eat it? No. So us not being allowed to eat it has nothing to do with it being impure. All other animals, when we're not allowed to eat them, that's because they're impure. But as for human beings, our flesh is pure, but it's not halal. So su'rul adami, if let's say for example Hassan was to drink the tea and I drank after him, it's fine, because that saliva, it comes out for the flesh and that flesh is clean, so therefore that should be clean. لأن المختلط or المختلط به اللعاب, because that thing which has mixed with the tea or with the water is what? Is saliva. وقد تولد, and this saliva has been produced min lahmin tahirin, from clean flesh, pure fresh flesh. Hence, فَيَكُونَ, whatever comes out of it is going to be tahir. Make sense? Yes, urine, feces, and a mouthful of vomit. These are 3 things, and blood. These are 4 things which are going to be considered to be impure. Anything that exits the passages is impure, and likewise blood, etc. ويدخل في هذا الجواب الجنب والحائض والكافر. Now next, someone might ask a question. Wait a minute. So you're saying to me all human beings, if they were to drink a cup of water, as a Muslim, I'm allowed to drink after them? Yeah? What about a junub? Someone who's in a state of janaba, isn't he in an impure state? So yes, he's in an impure state, but his flesh is still tahir. Likewise, a woman who is in a state of menstruation, she is in an impure state. That's why she can't pray her salat. But her flesh is still considered to be tahir. Likewise a kafir. So a kafir is in aqidah, his aqidah state is an impure state, but his flesh is considered to be tahir. Does that make sense? So this is why we don't do any discrimination with human beings. Yes, we do this. If a person has drank alcohol, someone drinks alcohol, and then straight after the alcohol, they drink a cup of water, that water is going to be impure for you. Because most likely, if you drank it straight after the alcohol, parts of the alcohol would have mixed into the water. But if some time went by, like you drank alcohol and then after about 10 minutes or so, you drank some water, can you drink that water after him? Yes. Why? Because the mouth, inside the mouth, because saliva is always being produced, we believe that saliva would have cleaned everything inside the mouth anyway by that time. Make sense? Yeah. Or for example, someone's eating there's a non-Muslim eating pork and he drank water straight after it. Can you drink that water? No, because most likely that water is going to be considered to be impure, so you can't drink it. Yes, if he ate it and then after 5 or 10 minutes he didn't eat anything else, and naturally the mouth started to produce saliva, clean the mouth inside, and then he drank water, then you are allowed to drink after him. Same with the sweat. The sweat of a menstruating woman, or the sweat of a person in the state of major impurity, or a disbeliever, their sweat is clean as well. Everyone with that? Okay, next. Wasurul kalb. So now what about a dog? So we talked about human beings and animals we can eat. What kind of animals can we eat? So let's say a cow was to drink from a bowl of water. Are we allowed to use that water for drinking? Are we allowed to use that water for wudu? What do you guys say? What would make that water unusable for wudu? Okay, is any najas in his mouth? No. Okay, so remember we did that table. Yeah. So what would you classify this water as? Huh? Remember we showed the table? I told you either the water nothing mixed with it or something mixed with it. And if something mixed with it, the thing mixed is either impure or it's pure. So this is pure. Okay, so what's the ruling?
Pure and purifying.
Huh?
Pure and purifying.
Yeah, it's fine. But when would the pure...
Overwhelms.
Huh?
Yeah, the saliva overwhelms.
If the saliva overwhelms, very good. So if the saliva overwhelms the water, so much so that it's more than 50%, then what would happen? Then you can't do wudu with it. You can drink it, but but you can't do wudu with it. Everyone understand that? So this is how you got to think. Yeah, so when you see this masail, that's how you got to think about this. Okay, next. وَسُؤْرُ الْكَلْبِ نَجِسٌ. The su'r of a kalb, a dog, is it an animal that we can eat? No. Yeah, so its flesh is haram for us. So su'r al-kalb is najis. Now look, there is a difference between the Hanafis and the Shafi'is when it comes to the saliva of a dog. Yeah, the water that's drunk from it. Even the Malikis are with the Shafis in this, and even the Hanbalis. So this is a bit of a strange one, because the Malikis say that the dog's saliva is clean, but if it licks from a bowl, that bowl has to be washed. It's a bit of a strange one there. Yeah, so this, let's say a dog was to come and drink from this. So according to them, the dog's saliva is clean, but because it's licked from this. Now why is that? Because of a hadith. And that hadith basically is this, that the Prophet ﷺ said that if a dog licks from a bowl, then wash it 6 times with water and once with sand. إذا ولغ الكلب في إناء أحدكم فاغسلوه 6 بالماء وبالتراب. أو 7 إحداها بالتراب والباقي بالماء. So anyway, so they take this hadith, yeah, so they say that this is, like Malikis actually say, this is Amr Ta'abudi. The Prophet ﷺ has told us, we don't go into the details of it. Yeah, we don't look at the reasoning behind it, because according to the reasoning, it should be clean. So the Shafis, he's mentioned Shafis, so I will stick to Shafis. They say you gotta wash it 7 times. Now what's our dalil? Our dalil is this. So we got this dalil, yeah, this hadith does exist. However, on the other hand, you got another evidence. We got hadith that the Prophet ﷺ, he said that when a dog licks from a bowl, wash it 3 times. Yeah. Now, look at this. You know, logically, remember, as a faqih, as someone who's looking into fiqh, we want to try and understand everything with regards to reasoning as much as possible. As much reasoning behind the rules of Islam, we need to find them. There's certain things in Islam, obviously, we're not going to understand, which are beyond our understanding. But most things we can understand. So we say, look, you know, a dog, if a dog urinates on your clothes, how much times must you wash it before it's considered to be clean? Huh?
3 times.
Up to 3 times, yeah? Yeah, if you can wash it once and it gets clean, it's fine. So why is it that the saliva, which is considered to be less than the urine is washed 3 times, yeah, and the saliva has to be 7 times? That don't make sense. Why is that? Does that make sense? So this is why we say يغسل الإناء من ولوغه 3. If a dog licks from a bowl, it's washed 3 times. لقول عليه السلام يغسل الإناء من ولوغ الكلب 3. That the vessel is washed from the licking of a dog 3 times. Now look, لسانه يلاقي الماء. The tongue of the dog, so imagine this is the vessel and inside of it is the water. So the tongue does not touch the vessel, does it? Touches what? The water. لسانه يلاقي الماء دون الإناء فلما تنجس الإناء فالماء أولى. So when the Prophet ﷺ says you have to wash the vessel, what does that mean? If the Prophet ﷺ, if the dog hasn't licked the bowl, and we know he's licked the water, and the Prophet ﷺ is saying wash the bowl, what does that tell us about the water?
Water is najis.
Should be najis as well, isn't it? Yeah. So فَلَمَّا تَنَجَّسَ الْإِنَاءُ فَالْمَاءُ أَوْلَى. Then the water should also be considered to be najis. This is known as isharatun nas. Yeah, isharatun nas. If the bowl is impure, therefore the water should be impure as well. وَهَذَا يُفِيدُ النَّجَاسَةِ. And this tells us, one thing this hadith tells us is that this water is impure. Yes, in other words, dog's saliva is impure. وَالْعَدَدْ فِي الْغَسَلِ. And this hadith explicitly tells us, in usul, we call this khas al-adad. Yeah, khas al-adad, like the Quran, Sunnah tells us in a specific number of times. So the hadith says, thalathan. So thalath is not 2, and it's not 4, it's 3. Make sense? So 2 things we learn from this hadith. Now, how do we respond to the Shafis then? The Shafis got a hadith as well. So can't they say, well, our hadith says a higher number? Shouldn't we act upon the higher number than 3? So the way we answer this is like this. Number 1, we say that the hadith that they mention, this is based on the early ruling in Islam. In Islam, in the beginning, dogs were prohibited, banned. The Prophet ﷺ in Medina, he put a ban on dogs. And the Prophet ﷺ, he actually, in Sahih Muslim, there's narrations where the Prophet ﷺ, he actually set laws for people to kill dogs. And he would mention hadith like, whichever house has a dog in there, every single day, the owner of that dog will lose 1 qirat of reward, 1 large amount of reward. And whichever house has a dog in there, angels will not enter that house. And that the dog breaks your salat. Yeah, there's lots of rulings regarding dogs. Why was this? Because the Arabs were very fond of dogs. They used to like dogs more than they used to like their own families. So they would spend more on their dogs than they would spend on their families. So this was affecting society. So the Prophet ﷺ, he wanted to cut it at the root. So he banned it. But then after many years, when the Sahaba, when they stopped being inclined towards keeping dogs, then what happened? Then he opened it again. Yeah, he said, fine, don't kill dogs anymore now. Yeah, stop killing them. Except for this specific type of dog that was in Medina. It was a black kind of dog. He goes, kill that dog. This was a dangerous dog. So it's possibly it was some sort of wild dog. So he said, kill that dog, but besides them, don't kill them. So the ruling changed, and then he allowed people to keep dogs for security reasons. He allowed people to keep dogs for, shepherd, sheep dogs. He allowed people to keep dogs for other purposes as well. So this is why the ruling was uplifted afterwards. But look, so this is why we say this was in the beginning of Islam. Then later on the ruling changed. Just like any impurity. Does that make sense? Okay, and like I told you, the urine issue. So look, وَهُوَ حُجَّةٌ عَلَى الشَّافِعِي. This is a dalil against Imam Shafi'i. فِي اشْتِرَاطِ السَّبْعِ. Regarding the condition of 7 times. Yeah, لِأَنَّ مَا يُصِيبُهُ بَوْلُهُ. Because that which is affected with the dog's urine, يَطْهُرُ بِالثَّلَثِ, is cleaned with 3 washes. Remember, when we say 3 washes, look, it does not mean nowadays we have to wash it 3 times. In them days, they didn't used to have taps. The idea is for impurity to be removed from the cloth. So if you have a tap and you put a cloth, let's say there's a cloth that's got semen on there, or it's got blood on there, or it's got urine on there, you put it under a tap. That tap gushing, it acts as though you washed it more than once. The aim is to remove the impurity. That's why in them days they would scoop out water, wash it once, scoop out water, wash it twice, scoop out water. Makes sense? So if you have a tap system, that tap system suffices. You just have to put it under the tap for a few seconds, and it's as though it's washed it more than once. Makes sense? Just rub it a bit, put it under the tap, job's done. So this is why this text is talking about when you don't use a tap. فَمَا يُصِيبُهُ سُؤْرُهُ. So that which is affected with its saliva, وَهُوَ دُونَهُ, which is obviously less than urine. Yeah, we know it's less than urine because urine is something which the Prophet ﷺ explicitly mentioned rulings regarding. إِسْتَنْزِهُ مِنَ الْبَوْلِ. Stay away from urine. أَوْلَى. This, therefore, it's more deserving. Meaning that the saliva is more deserving that, the saliva is more deserving that it should be washed with 3 only. وَالْأَمْرُ الْوَارِدْ بِالسَّبْعِ. And the command in the hadith that comes for 7 times, مَحْمُولٌ. This is interpreted as the beginning of Islam. You understand that? So this, you have to understand something important here, which is in fiqh, when you deal with dalil, you have to understand where this came in the Islam. Was this a ruling that was found throughout Islam in the time of the Prophet ﷺ? Or was it something that was only in the beginning of Islam and the ruling changed? So this is why the faqih has a very big job on hand. He's got to go through all of these things to try and find out that where this actually plays a role. And like I told you before, in usul, when you have two clashing dalils, the first thing you look for is abrogation. Yeah, so you have two clashing dalils. Either you watch it 3 times or you watch it 7 times. You can't do it both. So you look, has it been abrogated or not? So if you find it's been abrogated, fine. If you don't find it's abrogated, you give preference over one over the other. And if you can't give preference of one over the other, like one is sahih, one is da'if, yeah, if you can't find that, then you do the third option, which is to do tatbiq, yeah, which is reconcile between the two evidences. So you try and act upon them together. Like for example, the Hanafis say, yeah, that look, when you're raising your hands, there's hadith that say the Prophet ﷺ raised it up to his ear, and there's hadith that say he raised it up to his shoulders. So both hadith are fine. So we can't find in any hadith where it says that he did one in the beginning of Islam, one later on. Nor can we find one is stronger than the other textually or with regards to the chain. So what do we do? Third step, which is we put our hands in such a way that it comes up to the shoulders and up to the ears. So we act on both. Yeah. So maybe the Prophet ﷺ, when he used to raise his hands, some people used to see him and used to describe it as though he went up to his shoulders. And some people describe it, yes. Does that make sense? So both are fine, to the shoulders, both. But the Hanafi say it's more preferred to try and get it like that. Okay? And finally, if you can't find any way of reconciling two evidences together, you do not act upon them. That's it, you leave it. Leave it to the side and don't act upon it until your research can find an answer. Everyone got that? Okay. G, go on.